All right, cool. All right, so today we have a special guest today. Her name is Kristi. She actually was one of like my first clients ever. So that's kind of neat. She, jumped on when I have absolutely no proof of what I was doing was going to work for her. So more power to her. But ultimately, we're sitting here. You actually signed up in the winter, like January, February of 2022, and it is now
Yes.
February of 2024. So it is a total of 2 years later. Um, we pretty much worked very closely for about like 6 to 8 months, had a little bit of a break, and then came back another probably 4 to 6 months. And then Chrissy did the rest on her own. Like I'm like, yo, what's up? You good? And you're like, yeah, I'm good. And then like that's kind of like how you've been coasting for like the past honestly year. And I think there's some things that obviously happen in Christy's life that are, she's made decisions. She's moved forward. She's like kind of figured it out. She has had struggling, challenging times, and she's still, over like we just did the math, 63 pounds down total. Um, but ultimately, like not the person that she was. Like you are not who you were 2 years ago. You can like tell
100%.
in your like how you talk, how you act, like everything. Um, and I'm not saying like you weren't a great person then. Like I really didn't. I only knew you when you came to me and you were ready for a change. You're always like chipper. You're always in a good mood. But just like there's some difference about like your aura and how you carry yourself. One of the funniest stories that I have with Christy is that like literally like the Christmas parade. She's just like waving at me. I'm like, who's this person waving at me from across the street? And I'm like, oh my God, that's Christy. Because I've only met you like once in life, and like you are like a completely different looking human being now. So
It's so funny actually. So I work from home most of the time too, and I had to go into the office today this morning, which is why I screwed up our time for today. But
that's okay.
I like they literally like Christy, like they're like you look so different. I'm like, yeah. They're like, where have you been? I was like, yeah, like I kind of like it that way, but it's crazy.
So I gotta know what made it you feel like this weight loss journey was like no other like attempt at weight loss in the past. Like what was different between what you've tried in the past and like when we were working together?
So I think one thing that I struggled with, and I think a lot of people struggle with, and like when you're a mom, right? I have five kids. So when you're a mom, you put yourself first, last all the time, 100% of the time. And whatever it was, a couple years ago, 2 years ago, when I decided to make a change, it was more or less I was super unhappy. I was unhappy. Like my kids are great, right? They're great. They're happy. They're great kids and things like that. But I really needed to make something for myself because I wasn't happy with who I was. And I know you're not supposed to put so much emphasis on weight, but I was the heaviest that I'd ever been, ever. And I have twins. So I was heavier than when I was pregnant with them. And I needed to just do something really, truly just for myself. And I had so many people that were like, do not do this, do not invest the money in that. Here's all these free things that you can do. And I was just like, I'm gonna just do it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do it. Okay, that's a perfect lead in. So like when you were making the decision, to invest financially, um, what kind of thoughts were going through your mind? Because I know a lot of people that are in like the same boat, like there needed a change, something had to be different. I have to make this work. There's obviously fear, but like what was kind of going through your head if you can remember that even 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2 years ago. I guess for me, I look at it as I can invest in myself or I can just coast along, right? So whether you decide to do something, get your nails done or whatever, you're still investing in something that you want to do. And my biggest struggle with myself at that time was my weight and the way that I looked at things. And I was like, you know what? I don't care what I have to do. I don't care who is upset because I spent any money. Like anything. I was just like, well, you know what? I'm just going to do it. This is just the one thing I needed to do. And being a single mom and things like that, it's hard. And I just knew that my kids needed to see a happy mom too. So
Mhm.
I just did it.
So you put your actually, it's interesting that you say that because like a lot of people would hear that and be like, that's so selfish. But then the
Yeah,
last
for
comment
sure.
was like, oh my gosh, that's the most selfless thing you did. You invested in
Yeah.
yourself. You worked very hard yourself so that your kids can see
I'm
a happy mom.
I am, if you ask, I have two older kids too. If you ask them like the difference between who I was then and who I am now, they will tell you straight up that it is completely different. I am so much more invested. I am so much more with my kids, right? Because I don't just, sit on the porch and watch them play outside. Like I'm out there and I'm doing those things that I wouldn't have been able to do.
Hmm.
It's, it is the most unselfish thing, I think, for your children to see you happy so that way they know how to be happy themselves. I think
Hmm.
that's important.
Yeah. The really catch 22 is like, well, they're going to get to know you. Someone told me one time, they're like, one day your kids are going to know exactly who you are. So when that
Hmm.
day comes, you better be in a pretty good spot, like, because they can
Yeah.
see through your bullshit at some point. Um,
Yeah,
for
they
no,
can.
lack of a better
Yes,
term.
they can.
So like you better be who you want to be at that point. And if you're not, like no big deal, but you can always like make that change. So, you have older children that kind of like saw you before and after, and they can tell like this huge difference. For your younger children, like they may never even know that old Kristi, which is really
Right.
cool because then they can't like throw that in your face. Like, oh,
Right.
you used to be this way.
Right.
How kids work, right?
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I think that's like the coolest thing. And one thing that I always want to touch in is like you it's not like this happened overnight. Like you did
No.
not just like, hey, I just invested with this coach and I don't know if he's going to actually work. I'm a new person today,
No, and
right?
actually, like it was the complete opposite. So when you made me not like, because when I was like, I was ready. I was like, all right, here I go, here I am, and you're like, well, we need to be back up a little bit, and we need to see what you're actually doing first. And like we spent a huge amount of time just like, I guess when people like start to do a program, they're like, let's go right now. And I had to really trust you because you were like, you need to eat more. Like, here you go, keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I had to like really put a lot of faith in that because it's not what you're used to. You're used to people being like, okay, well, you want to lose weight now, let's just cut everything and you have to eat less
Mm-hmm.
and all those things and that it was I had to trust you. It's scary.
It is a scary thing because it's very different. But like but then at the same time, I hope, I was trying to give you that educational piece. Like, well, this is
Yeah.
how you're living right now. Like, if we don't know really where you're at and we go to the extreme, like, well, where are we coming back to? Or
Yeah.
like when shit does hit the fan, what are you falling back to? If I know what that's at, like, well, is that a good spot? Do we have to work on that? What would cause you to
Right.
fall off or like, go backwards or, what's caused you to get kicked off in the past? Let's fix that first. And then if
Right.
it ever happens, we're ready for it. We have a plan. Um,
Right.
which always kind of gets me excited because like I mean, the hardest thing to do is, to trust something that is so different. But in reality, once you understood, metabolism, lifestyle, like how like the psychology behind like your food choices work, that makes sense. Like the second that Ryan
For
told me that
sure.
I could have like chocolate, I didn't like have these crazy cravings for chocolate anymore, or like, whatever they were. You can make
Right.
anything work. Um, which is a very interesting dynamic, and everyone's like, I don't know, I get a lot of hate on that, like, oh, you shouldn't be eating that foods. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that
I can
information
tell
just
you right now, if you told me that I couldn't eat like certain things, and if that was the way that this entire program would have go, I don't know if I would have been as successful as I have been and been able to do it, like you said, on my own for the
Mhm.
last, you know, few months and things. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Hi.
Like,
My name's Ryan Murphy. I like to rebel when you tell me I can't do something. I'm gonna go do it like twice as hard. So,
right.
like me personally, like yeah, the second you tell me not to do something, I'm gonna go do it. Sorry, like mom, Um,
Right.
so I think that's super important. So kind of like, and the hard part is that you were trusting, when I had like no proof of success. Honestly, like,
Right.
you were literally the fourth person. I think I worked with Brittany as like a guinea pig before that. And then I don't know if that's how we got connected. But
Yeah.
really, but you worked with me before she even had success. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, you were just going based off like, all right, this is, what I know, not even to be true 100%. This is what I learned. This is like the process that I've seen work for other people.
Right.
This is what I think is kind of like your thing. And like we worked through it. So, um, yeah, I'm excited for you. Ultimately, though, there was a time in our relationship that I got wildly frustrated. I don't know if I ever expressed this to you, but I'm going to express it to you now. You went to your doctor, and this is when you were already, I think, 20 pounds down. And your
Yeah.
doctor goes, you need to lose weight. You need to lose more weight. You need to eat 1,200 calories. And then you came to me,
Hmm.
you're like, all right, like I feel good, like I'm seeing progress. Like what do you think? And I'm like, well, if you didn't have this conversation, what would you have done? And you're kind of like, if you keep doing the way that I'm doing, like I'm losing weight, it's working, it's efficient. Like I'm down. But I'm like, the doctor is like, I'm really scared to, I should listen to him. And so like kind of talk me through like what was going through your brain as I was like, man, I wish this guy would just kind of stay in his lane, which maybe sound inappropriate, but like also like take a step back, look at where you were like even 6 months before that doctor's appointment, and then where you were today. Like 20
Right.
pounds is amazing. And you could see it in like your personality too. It wasn't just like the weight was coming off, like you were like doing more things. You were hiking, like you were getting outside and doing things for you more often. And like if I got someone came to me and like, I'm eating better, I'm losing weight, I'm more active, as a doctor, be like, keep doing it. But he's just like,
Right.
we need to be more aggressive. You need to go down 1,200
Right.
calories. So yeah, tell me a little bit more about that experience if you remember it.
Yeah, it just um well, because I guess I was really afraid because I was starting, that's where we started, right? So like when we started looking at what I was eating then, that's what I was eating and I wasn't losing weight and things, and I'm like, you know what? Like I don't know if I can do that again, like just to go backwards, and because I had had the success and things like that. So I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep going. And
Hmm.
because it was working, like,
Hmm.
sometimes it's hard when you do so many things and it's not working to be easily like, all right, I got to try something else. I got to do something else because this isn't working. But it was. So I guess it was just like, all right, well, you know what? I'm not going to see him for another year, right? So let's just see.
Keep doing whatever the fuck I want anyway. Um, and I love that. No, that was like one moment, and I just like I'll never forget it because you came to me with like some emotion and confusion, and you're like I don't like what do you think I should do?
Right.
And
Like, do we
I'm
have to go harder? Like, what am I like? What do I do? What am I doing? Like, if it's, yeah, but
but
I
then
just
I'm
kept
just coming
going.
from a place I'm like it's been 6 months, and you're like progressively every time we're checking in, you were losing more weight and feeling more energy and like not going to the extremes. Um, so like just baffles me, but at the same time, I guess I want to know from like when we first had our first conversation through now, one was the program what you expected.
In the beginning, no.
Okay.
It wasn't what I expected in the beginning because I really did have to trust you for that little bit of time where it's like, I need to see where you're at, Kristi, not where you want to be, because that's not going to help you
Okay.
um, in the long term. So I think at first that was really scary for me. But then after that, after you start being successful in something, you're so excited about it and you just want to keep doing it. And you're like, all right, what else can we try?
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it was better than I expected. The
Ooh.
outcome was better than I expected. Yes.
So then
I did
what?
not think I would be where I am.
No.
No.
Do you remember when we did like the best version of yourself?
Yeah, kind of. I'm
Yeah.
kind of old, man. I don't know about this. This
Yeah.
was a
So
long time
like
ago.
that was 2 years ago, but like, we pretty much painted a picture of like exactly like who you were, where you wanted to be, how you wanted to feel. And I feel like you are like you stepped into those shoes. That's just who you are now. Like
Yeah.
you have the energy. You do the
Oh,
hiking.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
Light bulb now.
Yeah. Well, that, and it was I was trying to fit into a dress too
Yes. Oh yeah.
for yeah, and I like way surpassed that. So
Yes, that's yeah. That I remember that was like the big end goal. So you were planning a New Year's party for work event, and you wanted to fit
yeah.
into a dress. Yeah, my mind's coming back a little bit too. So, but like I like that too. So for some people that um have a bad relationship with the scale, sometimes like, all right, go try on some clothes, and I want this to be a little bit tighter, and then you're gonna like take pictures, and if you want to, or just kind of make a note, and then like let's try it in 30 days. Oh my gosh, it's looser everywhere. Cool. Like that's
Right.
progress. It doesn't always have to be a number on the scale. So I guess I want to know from like the perspective of everything that we've gone through, what did you like about the program?
Um, I liked that I didn't have to give up everything I wanted to. I have my culinary degree, Ryan. Like I
Yeah,
love
you're a
food.
cooker.
And I love all those things. And I think that my favorite thing is if I want to have a, chocolate at the end of the day, I can have chocolate at the end of the day. I'm just more mindful of it throughout the day. So
Hmm.
it's just that's what I like about it. I genuinely like, and besides the program, like I think the way that I feel now is what I like the most
Yeah,
about everything. It's 100. I don't even know how many times better. Like
yeah,
way over 100.
amazing. What didn't you like about the program?
I don't know if there's anything I didn't necessarily like. I was scared in the beginning because I was like, "Oh, I'm so ready," and then he's like, wait, just trust me," and I'm like, "Ah,
Yeah. Okay,
I'm never gonna get there."
that makes sense. All right, and then
But I'm
you
glad that
kind
I did.
of yeah, me too. I'm glad you did too. Um, so like you kind of were talking about like a lot of different options that you had, when you pulled the trigger to work with us or work with me. What made you choose to work with me specifically? Like, why was it, what I was saying, what I was kind of talking about, or compared to like doing, like you said, there's so many other things that are free out there.
Yeah. Um, I wanted to do something different, and I had a super big anxiety, like, about going to the gym, and I didn't want to like look for somebody who was gonna be like, "Oh, Kristi, you just have to go to the gym. This is where you need." And like, I really, really liked that you worked with what I already had, so I didn't have to step way outside my comfort zone when I was already so self-conscious of myself. But now I told you I did just get a gym membership
That's
and that
so cool.
anxiety's gone. So I'm pretty excited. But
Yeah.
I think that where you were willing to meet me
Okay.
where I was.
Yeah. Um, I feel like it'd be very like unethical to tell you like, hey, we can accomplish this goal, and then like the only thing is you can't eat this, you can't have that, you have to work out in the
Yeah.
gym, you have to be super anxious all the time, which is like kind of
Yeah.
where a lot of people threw me in like my programs like that I've tried, like, hey, I want to be able to go enjoy like date night. Well, that's not in a meal plan. Well, how do you make it in a meal plan? Like you don't, you either follow it or you're not gonna like see the success you want.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, cool. So like just no pizza ever, like not while you're trying to lose weight. I'm like, okay, I'm already like out. So it just didn't work for me either. Um, cool. During the program, during, like especially in the beginning times when we were, checking in all the time, talking like a lot. I feel like we've had some conversations that were like, 30, 45 minutes. Kind of getting in deep. Like I always say, like, if we want to make lifestyle changes, um, how did you feel like during that, like those calls at that time compared to maybe, I don't know, if you've ever had like your check-ins or worked with somebody in the past? What was
I guess I
different
didn't work
about
with
it?
anybody in the past, but like as far as our check-ins go, I think a huge part of things is like stress, like right, your stress is going to super impact like what you're doing and how you're eating and things like that. So I really liked that you focused on all of those things for me. So it was more of like, hey, like what's going on and things like that. And you listened to me like sometimes more than my therapist did, to be honest. But it just was like it was a whole lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. It's not necessarily just like a fitness and a nutrition coach.
Mhm.
Like it was a lifestyle, and that's what
Mhm.
I needed to be able to get to where I was, because I can look at any app and do some workouts that it
Mhm.
follows, and I'm sure that they're all going to be great. I'm sure that they're all going to be good things that you can do. It was just the entire totality of it all that I
Mhm.
think set it apart.
Yeah, and I'm not going to get into like the details we covered, but like we didn't just talk about like stress coming from diet and nutrition. It was like
Nope.
family dynamics. Like we talked a lot about like, where we're from, like, people we know, like different things and stresses coming from every different aspect and,
Work
work
and
and
yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah, for
relationships and
sure.
stuff like that. So if we're not ever, addressing those things, well, we have to understand that like they're causing stress. And if we
Yeah.
don't know how to manage it appropriately and like we revert back to old behaviors, well, what's the new behavior kind of thing? Um, so the only thing that I think is different between now and then is a little bit more like streamlined process of like how to have those
Yeah.
conversations quicker. Cause like,
Right.
like that, and that's kind of like a question I want to ask is like, if we could have gotten to the place quicker, um, like, all right, I don't even know how to phrase this one. Basically, like my goal, and this is like this is my pursuit of coaching because I want everything to get better and better and always improving and whatnot. Like you've had this moment. I've talked to Jackie about this moment. I've talked to like a handful of other people. You get to a moment where you feel like you're in control.
Hmm.
And like it doesn't matter the stresses of the world, what situations arise, who pops in your life, who leaves you, like whatever. You're in control of like what you're eating and how you're acting day to day. What was it for you when you had that moment of clarity of like I'm in control of my body and my life?
Um, I guess, you are the one who always sees the last bit of changes for like you're like everybody else who doesn't really see you all the time is going to notice that something's different before you really notice things. And when I was consistently, people were being like, "Oh my gosh, Kristi, like you look so great," or "You just look different. Your like skin is different. You look happy." People that I worked with at the restaurant that I work at too, they were just like, "You're just happy."
Yeah.
And I kind of just looked around and I was like, maybe they're right. Like maybe this is what like and it was that moment. But I think because I've always been the hardest on myself, we women just tend to be the hardest on themselves. Like I think when I started noticing those things and those compliments and those things from people, it really like went like, all right, you know what? I did it.
Yeah.
Like
Like take some pride
I
in
did
that.
it. And and it also too, like, kudos to you and everything else, man, but you couldn't eat my food for me. Like you couldn't do it. And you can
I
give
would
me
if
all
I
the
could.
workouts, but right, but I had to do it. And I was just
Yeah.
like, you know what? I did it. Like this is me. I didn't have anything like, and I did it. So
Yeah.
that's a super cool feeling.
That's something that is like so powerful of everything that you said. I kind of want to like double back. Like when you sign up for like a coach, I want you guys like to know like if everybody's familiar with the Packers, Matt LaFleur is the coach. He doesn't step on field at all the whole game. He doesn't have any influence on the outcome of the actual execution of plays. I can give you
Mm.
strategies. I can talk you through things. I can make sure like you have all the tools and the things that you need to navigate. But I can't put the food in your mouth. I can't slap the
Right.
food out of your hand. A lot of people are like, I wish someone would just follow me around and slap the food out of my hand. I'm like, no, because like
Well,
even
that's
if I
silly.
could, I wouldn't because you have to have a good relationship with like you could hold on to, a piece of cake and you could choose, do I want this or do I not want it? Is it going to make me feel good tomorrow? Is it going to like, am I celebrating now? Like, what's the purpose of this? If it's to fill a void of an emotional thing, that's probably not the best thing. But if it's because it's my freaking kid's birthday and I want to have a piece of cake, that's a really good idea to have cake, right?
Right.
Are we suffocating? Are we stuffing down emotions with the cake, or like those kind of things? It's like that's the kind of common conversations and the questions that I ask all the time because that's kind of what it was for me. Like it just take a step back. Why am I having this? Do I need it? Is this what's going towards my goals? Is this something that I'm going to have like all the time, or is this a one off? And like when you start like looking at foods differently, I think that's where it's like, oh, it's very easy. Like I woke up this morning. I can't think about food until like 2 p.m. What's going to give me the most energy, make me feel full so I don't have to like be hungry when I get to 2 p.m. For me, I know exactly what that looks like. That's kind of like my goal with all my clients. Like you have to understand like what the point of the food is, what you're going to get out of it. Some foods serve you more, some foods serve you less. Um, but then like you're in control. Like you're putting it in your mouth. And I can get everybody that moment. So if you are working with us currently, if you want to get there quicker, maybe like watch this and realize like Ryan's not gonna, eat for me.
He
What
won't.
were yeah, I think you touched on it already, but like the biggest challenges that you faced and how did you overcome it?
The challenge in the beginning was just being patient. And I guess that's a theme throughout everything too. You have to be patient with yourself. Like you can
Mm,
walk into something and be ready to go, but you have to be patient with the fact that you're changing an entire aspect of your life, a huge
mm,
aspect of your life. It is your lifestyle and how you handle that. So I think patience is I'm not the best with patience.
no, no, and like I don't think moving forward, I think it's going to get harder and harder to be patient. Like nobody, like delayed gratification is so a thing of the past.
Yeah.
Because I mean, who's even
Because
bored anymore?
Amazon delivers the day of now. Like,
Yeah, like if you're sitting in line, you're gonna pull out your phone and you have like instant entertainment. Like you don't even have
right.
the feeling of being bored anymore, which is scary to me. Like
I
for my kid, I'm
totally
like, just stare out the window, all right? Like no phones, just
get
stare out the window. That's what I did, and that turned
Go
out all right.
find something.
Yeah, so he freaks out long enough, and I like throw a video at him. Anywho, not a parenting show right now. It's just coaching.
Right.
What is one piece of advice that you would give to someone who wants to achieve what you've achieved?
Be patient with yourself and to trust your process because it does work.
Thank
It
you for
does.
saying that, but like,
It does though. But for real, be like being patient because it's not going to happen overnight.
mhm.
It's gonna, and you're gonna get out what you put into it. So whatever you want to get out of it, just make sure you have to put into it, I guess.
A newer question that I don't even know if I ever asked this to Kristi, but like there's a point when I talk to, everybody we're working with now, if I snap my fingers and you were the best version of yourself, you lost all the weight, you're standing there, 20, 30, 40, 63 pounds lighter. What is your confidence level that you would be able to keep it off? And right now I'm staring at Kristi.
Now,
It's a 10 out of 10.
yeah,
I'm going to answer
for
for you. I'm
sure.
sorry. Yeah,
Yeah, sorry,
it's
I'll answer too.
yeah,
But
no,
yeah, I
it
do.
is.
I do.
It's because, but if I would have asked that question in say March of 2022 when we first started, like in the first 3 months, I don't know if that would have been like a 10 out of 10 at that point. Like because you were still kind of doing the reverse diet. We worked your calories up for almost like 2.5 months. I think we got up to like 2,300 calories. And then so when she was going into a deficit, it was only like 1,800, 1,700, maybe 1,600 calories, depending on her activity level. Which is
1850.
was it 1850? Yeah, so
Yes.
at 1850, she was like able to lose weight, which is very different than most people kind of like assume. Like, oh no, like I can't lose weight at 1850. I'm like, have you ever tried? And most people like,
And it was
yeah,
more than I was eating before. So
yeah. That's like a hard thing to, get people to do. And the hard part is like I don't even want like I know trust is, earned, not given kind of thing. And you were really trusting the process and everything like that. And the big takeaway at the end of the day was like it did work. But man, I don't even know like why were you so trusting that this was going to work? What was it about?
because I was ready.
Okay.
I was ready. I was ready to make the change for myself, and I was not happy. And I'm like, well, you know what? You're doing this, and you're gonna see it through. And
Yeah.
I did.
And yeah, I love it. Is there anything else that you'd like to share?
I think that's it. I'm
Awesome.
happy. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Absolutely.
you and
Absolutely.
Brittany because she brought me to you. So
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I got to talk to Brittany too. Still helping her out sometimes.